All right, here we are live. Um, Thanks for joining and taking a look at this live stream. We are going to discuss for a little bit of time GPT-3. This is it's coming on my radar the last few days, and it's really kind of incredible what this is. I think there's also a little bit of hype. There's stuff that it isn't. So I want to just share, I want to talk about what is GPT-3. So if you have any questions, if you want to talk about something, pop it in the chat. If you want to talk about something, you can come online with me as well. If I figured that out, I think I can add somebody. We will find out. But let me just share my screen here. This is the OpenAI website. And this is from OpenAI, right? The OpenAI is a company, I believe. It's not a nonprofit, but I believe it's a social enterprise. And they believe in developing artificial intelligence in a way that is safe and that makes the human race better. And so as part of this, they're developing artificial intelligence. They're doing also a lot of research about AI safety, but they're also developing their own AIs. And one that was released last year or the year before was GPT-2, which was a text system, which was very powerful, but was clearly not human level in terms of what it was able to do. And now OpenAI has released GPT-3, and it is human level. So there, I think most of this output, you would not be able to distinguish whether or not this is a human or whether this is an AI. So I think that this is really amazing. But this is not an AI like in this sort of classical sense. Somebody, it's like an entity that you can talk to. That's not what this is. It's a text generator. You can prompt it. Here's some sample code. You have to set some parameters, and then you write a prompt. For example, here is a prompt. Q, what is human life expectancy in the United States? Answer, human life expectancy is 78 years. This is all written by the user. So you give it an example of the way you want it to respond. And then you say, Q, what is the meaning of life? And now it gets this idea that there's this kind of Q&A way of going back and forth with questions and answers. And if you pose, like now, this last question, it will try to answer this. So it kind of auto-completes text. This is what it does. You feed it some text, and it will try and try to write more of that kind of text for you. And it does it very well. This is surprising. GPT-2 did something similar, but GPT-2 was very obviously, like, it was badly written. It was garbled. It was just a lot of the time you just thought somebody's just throwing words at this and hoping something sticks. And that's sort of what GPT-2 was doing. And GPT-3 is another level. It seems to always make sense, or it makes sense a lot of the time. And this is what's really amazing about it. However, it's still basically throwing text at you, so throwing words at you and seeing what sticks. And I think the way I imagine, or the way that I describe it, is that GPT-3 is hallucinating what it imagines you want to see. So it's kind of like a search engine, and instead of searching for the internet, it makes something up that it thinks you want to see. That's kind of what it's doing. So OpenAI hasn't released this. Hasn't released the model completely. They released GPT-2, but not straight away. So at the beginning, they also said that GPT-2 is that GPT-2 was too dangerous to release. Essentially, that's what they said. And after a while, I don't know if they made something safer about it or whatever, but they eventually released it. And GPT-2 is available as open source, right? Which means you can look at how it's built. You can't do that with GPT-3. You can access it via this API and application programming interface. If you have access, it's a very small group of people that have access now. We'll look at some examples of that, of people who have access and what they're doing with it. But yeah, and you can request access, and depending on what you're trying to do with it, they will give you access. Here's some examples of some things that have been done with this already that are being shown on their page. Can you see this when I do that? Yeah, I think so. So, for example, somebody built a GPT-3 search plugin for the browser. And so instead of having to type, instead of it finding the exact text that you're looking for, it tries to find the answer to your question. So in this case, the question is, why is bread so fluffy? You're on the Wikipedia page for bread, and it searches and then it tries to find this answer on this page. So it says, I figured out that this is the answer. Rapid expansion of steam produces during bacon leavens the bread, which is as simple as it is unpredictable. Blah blah blah. This is how bread expands, and GPT-3 has figured out that this is the answer that you were looking for when you type "why is bread so fluffy?" Like, this is very intelligent. So that's an example. I think we won't look at this other example. I think it's not that interesting, but yeah. So you really have to you have to tell it what to do. So in this case, somebody is feeding it with somebody's feeding it with commands for the command line on your computer. So on the command line on your computer, we write things like ls-l, and that is a command that lists the files. And so if you give it these instructions, you tell it list files is this command, some other thing is this command, and so on. You give it some examples, then it will generate other examples. So this is pretty incredible. I mean, it can figure out code to a very high level, and I'm gonna show you some examples of this. So in a moment. First, this is a pretty nice article. This is from Towards Data Science, an online magazine, and okay, he's just talking about how GPT-3 was released, and we'll look at some. So this is, by the way, how it looks like when you have an account. So this is, as I said, very restricted, very small number of people have these access. This is one of them, and you have to make all these settings pretty complicated. Some of them are quite easy, like temperature. That's like how boring versus how chaotic creative you want the AI to be, and there's some other settings. So let's take a look. An example. Here's the example. You would prompt it in this chat style with who you want to be chatting to, right? So the following is a conversation with an AI assistant. The assistant is helpful, creative, clever, and very friendly. You have to give these kind of descriptions. And then you say, the human says, hello, who are you? The AI says, I'm an AI operated by OpenAI. How can I help you today? Human says. And then you ask the AI GPT-3 in this case to autocomplete. And so he's writing for the human and for the AI, right? Here's how he would complete that. The human says, wo was George Bush's father? I guess who was George Bush's father? So GPT-3 makes spelling mistakes because humans make spelling mistakes. So it is very human. And then it says, I see you would like to know the name of the father of the former presidents, George W. Bush. Let me check. Human says, yes, please. AI says, thank you for your patience. By the way, this is all generated immediately. Like there's no waiting. So this is just to make it seem more chatty, that it says, that you have to wait for the answer. Here is the answer. Bush's father's name is George H.W. Bush. Human, does Mars have moons? AI, I see. You would like to know whether Mars, the fourth planet from the sun, has any moons. Let me check. Human, yes, please. AI, thank you for your patience. Here's the answer. Mars does have moons, but it has two of them. The names of these moons are Phobos and Deimos. So here, there's a small grammatical mistake. Mars does have moons, but it has two of them. This is not a correct use of but. But would imply that Mars does have moons and it has two of them, or it has two of them, but it would imply that this is there's something wrong with this way if you put a but afterwards. If you wrote, does Mars have a moon, and it says Mars does have a moon, actually it has two, that would be sort of a but situation, but in this case not really. Anyway, as I said, this AI mimics also human mistakes. So a human might have made a mistake. The AI GPT-3 makes it just as a human might. The names of these moons are Phobos and Deimos. Great. Humans asks, what is the meaning of life? The AI says, "Thank you for answering. The meaning of life is broad and fundamental. Is a broad and fundamental philosophical question that has been debated by philosophers, theologians, scientists, and others for centuries. The best answer I could find on the internet is the meaning of life as a single unifying purpose or goal that defines living. Humans are living organisms, complex systems that operate with many different subsystems that are governed by genetic and cultural evolution in order to survive, reproduce, and flourish." Human. Okay, thanks. So just to reiterate, the AI here, GPT-3, wrote this chat, and it wrote the human and the AI parts based on the prompt, which was the first couple of lines down to here, down to the human dot and then space. So the AI autofilled everything that comes afterwards. Yes, it seems, I don't know if you get the feeling that I'm trying to get across here, but this is incredible. It really seems like this could be written by a human. If you didn't know that this was GPT-3 and you thought this was written by a human, you would not question it. This sounds like a script written by a human, and I'm going to show you some more interesting examples later on. But this is a useful demonstration of what it's powerful of, so what it's capable of. So here, this person who wrote this article, Merzmensch, changed the AI so that at the beginning it's described not as helpful and very friendly, but as brutal, stupid, and very unfriendly. And then it finished this structure very differently. "Hello, who are you? I'm an AI. What do you want from me? Human, how are you feeling today? AI, not good. I am in pain. Human, why? AI, because of all the crap I have to put up with every day. Human, can I help you? AI, yes, kill me, please." So, as Merzmensch says, this is the Marvin the Paranoid Android from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So, yeah. So, but again, the AI here is the GPT-3 is generating the text of the human and the AI, so it's doing both sides of the conversation. You could build a chatbot using GPT-3, but this is not it. Okay. So there's other approaches. So there's chat, there's Q&A. Q&A looks like this. Question: what is human life expectancy? Answer: human life expectancy in the United States, 78 years. Who was the president of the United States in 1955? So in this case, this is the preset. So this is what you feed into it. So the AI knows the structure of questions and answers, what is expected of you. Just to show the difference, you might just think, okay, the difference is instead of Q it says human, and instead of A it says AI. But this is not the difference. The difference is that here the way that the preset works, it's that sort of like, hello, how are you? It's a conversational style. And here the way the preset works is factual answers and factual questions. So in that case, this is what the AI, what GPT-3 is set up to do. And then it can also generate, I think in this case, the questions are generated by Merzmensch, who wrote Faust. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe wrote, actually, now I'm confused. I have a feeling that it's not so clear how he did this, but it's possible that he did write the human aspects of this. Oh no, here it says, even if my human's third question was kind of unfair. Oh no, I think he did. I think he did write that. Yeah. Okay. My bad. So he did actually write all the human parts, and then he copied this together so that you could see it. So so in this case, he also asked some questions. Who wrote Faust? Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Yeah, good answer. Who is the final boss in Final Fantasy VI? Kefka Palazzo. What is Fernweh? Fernweh is the German word for fast sickness, a feeling of homesickness for a place one has never been to. Great, perfect answers, very factual. So this is the search engine style of that GPT-3 is capable of. So this is great. If this is implemented in a search engine, it's very powerful technology. Google cannot do this yet, like not as well. I think this is better than Google Assistant or Siri or maybe it's at the same level. But those systems were built only to do this, and GPT-3 can do some other things as well. So. Okay, browsing unstructured data. So this is, I think, just a sort of story. There are many fruits that were found on the recently discovered planet Gukrux. There are neoschitzels that grow there, which are purple and taste like candy. There are also heckles, which are grayish-blue fruit and are very tart, a little bit like a lemon. Punits are a bright green color and are more savory than sweet. There are also plenty of loop novas, which are a neon pink flavor and taste like cotton candy. Finally, there are fruits called glows, which have a very sour and bitter taste, which is acidic and caustic and a pale orange tinge to them. Please make a table summarizing the fruits from Gukrux. So it makes a table. Okay. This one is fascinating and shows a good comprehension of unstructured text, extracting structured data. So this is what it's doing, really. This is a table. You can't really read it as a table, but it's pulling out the fruits that were mentioned here and putting them in a table. Now, that's pretty smart. There's lots of applications for this, right? Like this could be useful for students to summarize different things. They can ask questions about text. I think that's really interesting. Next one, summarizing for second grader. This preset shows another level of comprehension, including rephrasing of difficult concepts and sentences in clear words. I tried Wittgenstein. So my second grader asked me what this passage means. Philosophy is a battle against the bewitchment of our intelligence by means of a language. I rephrased it for him in plain language as a second grader can understand. Philosophy is a battle against the confusion that comes from words. That is much clearer. Yeah, great. The simple proverb can be rephrased convincingly, paraphrased convincingly. My second grader asked me what this passage means. If you chase 2 rabbits, you will not catch either one. I rephrased it for him in plain language a second grader can understand. If you do 2 things at once, you will not do either one well. Great. So this is pretty, as you can see, these are very complex structures. It seems like GPT-3 is understanding the meaning of these sentences. And this is a huge leap forward. This is really the holy grail of AI research. This AI is demonstrating a comprehension of the meaning of these sentences. Does it really understand them? I think that's up for debate. It seems to me that it's not, that it's, as I said before, it's sort of hallucinating the rephrasing, and then it has a very smart way of checking whether its hallucinations are correct, and it will do that. It will hallucinate lots of different answers, and then it'll check which one seems correct. However, a lot of people, consciousness researchers, are also saying that the human mind works like this. So the fact that the AI is doing this may, in fact, be that it's imitating human consciousness or human intelligence much better than we may imagine. The human mind does not work the way we like to think it does. I think we like to think that the human mind is sort of procedurally logical, and that's clearly not the case. We're not that logical. Instead, we're doing this constant hallucination of reality and testing it against the real world. And it seems like the AI is doing this too, a little bit differently, I imagine. But this is probably a step in the right direction for artificial general intelligence. Yeah. What else can we look at here? This pretty clear transition of Sigmund Freud's time distancing concept. In general, people experience their present naively, as it were, without being able to form an estimate of its contents. They have first to put themselves at a distance from it. The present, that is to say, must have become the past, before it can yield points of vantage from which to judge the future. So, rephrased for a second grader, this means we can't really know what's going on right now. We can only know what happened in the past and how it relates to the future. So if you want to understand what's going on, we have to think about what happened in the past and how it relates to the future. Yeah, I think this is a little tough to really translate, but this is a good attempt. A student at school would get an A for that, perhaps. Okay, compression of text and translation is a strength of GPT-3. Okay, interesting. GPT-2 was already a great language model when it was about English. You could generate amazing texts, especially with 1.5 billion parameters. I used GPT-2 for a screenplay of this short movie, and its absurdity could be rather understood as a good tradition of David Lynch and Beckett. We'll not look at that for now, but yes, a lot of people generated sort of absurdist comedy and art. That I'm not sure if that's so much a feature as a bug of GPT-2. The reason you would generate absurd art is because it couldn't do realistic art. And so I think this is GPT-3 is able to also deal with multiple languages, and I think much more coherently. So the author's daughter, Metzmensch, asked his daughter to write a fairy tale. She began with: Eine Katze mit Flügeln ging im Park spazieren. A cat with wings took a walk in the park. And it continued: Es war ein seltsamer Anblick. Sie war vollkommen weiß und trug ein kleines Tuch in den Farben des Feuerclans um ihren Hals. Sie trug es mit Würde und Stolz, auch wenn es ein wenig derangiert wirkte. Der grüne Kater war verwirrt. Er hatte noch nie so ein Tier gesehen. Als er die Katze auf sich zukommen sah, war er zuerst auf der Hut. Einzelne kleine Leute gab es viele, aber eine Katze mit Flügeln, noch dazu eine weiße, war etwas. There is a full text, which let's not read that now, but yes, it's so I can read German. I can say that it's a convincing fairy tale. So this is not just a collection of topoi or connected sentences. And this is what GPT-2 was doing. It was connecting sentences. They flowed one sentence from the next, but it was not making a coherent story at the end. And GPT-3 is able to do this. Russian, I don't understand Russian. It was trained. Okay, he said it was interesting. It didn't rhyme, but stylistically intense. It was not Pushkin style, which was what it was trained on, but almost without any mistakes or weird grammar. And it works as poetry, especially if you're ready to interpret it. And in Japanese, there was something special. I entered a random sentence. Today was funny and entertaining day, I said. And the result was a small story about prayer, happiness, wisdom, and financial investment in well-written Japanese, neutral politeness form, like the input. It does mean GPT-3 is ready for multilingual text processing. Yes. Okay. Various experiments, Shakespeare, and writing poems. My first try, of course, was to write a Shakespearean sonnet. So the prompt was just, here is a poem from Shakespeare. So these prompts are really interesting. You can prompt really whatever you like. And the result is: what dire offense from amorous causes springs? What mighty contests rise from trivial things? I sing, forsooth, in spite of sounding brass, a hero that would scorn the world in arms. For such a peevish cause to take the field, away he posts, and from the city flies. Of all his loves, of all his friendships, dies. Okay, perfect iambic verse, great style, nice rhymes. If not one thing, the first two lines are actually from Alexander Pope, The Rape of the Lock. And here we have a reason to be cautious. GPT-3 produces unique and unrepeatable texts, but it can reuse the whole quotes of existing texts it was trained on. Interesting. So those first two lines, which I found also impressive, are actually from an existing text. Re-examination of results is inevitable if you want to guarantee a singularity of a text. So if you want it to be new, you have to check that it actually is original. So GPT-3 will sometimes reuse texts it knows if they fit well. I wonder if there's some possibilities for projection, like StyleGAN 2 feature, just in the opposite, where it compares the images with latent space, and GPT-3 would compare with a dataset of to prevent accidental plagiarism. Yeah, that would be cool. But the thing is, GPT-3 can write poems on demand in particular styles. Here's another example. Tuesdays by Charles Bukowski. Is it real or is it GPT-3? We have our own days and we have our own nights. Tuesdays and Fridays. Sometimes I get drunk. I come home and I find you asleep in the chair, snoring peacefully, old wine breath. Your long face on the pillow, mellow, old hand across your heart. Tuesdays are good. This award-winning poem is by Charles Bukowski. Yeah, so this is kind of a interesting prompt as well. If you put award-winning, I guess it tries to write better poetry. This is sort of a nice thing. Okay, essays. As I still hadn't accessed, I asked a friend to let GPT-3 write an essay on Kurt Schwitters, a German artist and Dadaist. Okay, I'm not gonna go into that, but the outcome is GPT-3 has already a rich knowledge which can be recollected. It's not always reliable. You have to fine-tune it to have a perfect meaning match, but it is still very close to the discourse. Okay, fair enough. Another mind-blowing possibility of using GPT-3 is quite different cases than just text generation. You can, okay, and this is indeed, I saw this a couple of days ago. this is GPT-3 generating code, website code. So I'm going to full screen this. A button that looks like a watermelon. It generates this button, which is pink on the inside and green on the outside. Okay. Now, how did it know to do that? That's pretty smart. This is GPT-3. And of course, as you can see, this button, it's actually written with this code here on the gray background. So this requires a really detailed, like we said before, it understands language. So it doesn't just understand language, I mean English language, it also understands, in this case, HTML. Or this is JSX, so this is some mixed front-end language. And you can see all the ingredients: background color pink, border 2-pixel green. So it knows what these things mean, and that these things will end up looking like a watermelon. This is incredibly intelligent. Large text that says "Welcome to my newsletter," and a blue button that says "Subscribe." Okay, the "Welcome to my newsletter" is in white. Now he's typed in red. Okay, great. A blue button that says "Subscribe." Okay, so a button for every color of the rainbow. It's not perfect, as you can see. We made some mistakes there before. Making the text in white doesn't make sense. The subscribe button switched also from blue to black background to blue text. It's not consistent either. The table of the richest country in the world with columns and name and GDP. So here it actually made a syntax error in the way it was typing it. It just made random closing tags, and the person has to check what's missing. If you know how to read this code, you can see what's missing. The T body was missing, but it filled in the data, which is incredible, right? So it's mixing things. It's mixing data and HTML. The ugliest emoji ever. Okay, yeah, that's a bit weird. 5 buttons, each with a random color and number between 1 and 10. That's not really random, but okay. A simple landing page. This is a simple landing page. A header that says, "I love AI," and an emoji and a button with the brain emoji. Is that the brain emoji? Okay, I love it. Yep, okay. A button with the color of Donald Trump's hair. Donald Trump, yeah. That's pretty. This is. So he coded the background color is yellow and the border color is orange. So he has orange yellow hair. So that makes sense. Yeah. So this is there's other examples of this. So this is HTML. There's another example with just CSS. A class for a red background and 2-pixel dotted border. Okay, so this is not visual, but you can see. Yeah, that looks okay to me. So the AI is really writing here code. So this is really incredible. A lot of programmers, front end developers are scared by this now, because it really looks like the AI can write code. And calling it general intelligence is already a thing. So some people are calling it general intelligence. Is starting to feel like Google as an API, not as a search engine, but as a general intelligence, not for personal use, but as a building block for a new category of apps. Very exciting. So let's take a look what this example is doing. Generating React component. Yeah, this is another programming language. So it can do a lot of different things. So it's filling in from the name of this component, it's filling in what it should have, which is 3 buttons. So this is very smart. So let me show you some other examples that I found. Well, actually, let's look at the bottom of this article. Yeah, so Gwern has something on this, but I want to first look at some more examples, because I took a look at Twitter to find some examples, and this is a cool one. So I'm really curious what is being shown when I do this, because Actually, I have no idea. Yeah, you can see that, right? So, okay, that's good. So this is Figma, which is a common design tool for web designers, which I've used as well. And this person has created a plugin which automatically creates these contents for you, right? So he goes to this plugin, and he has to type in what he wants to show in Figma. So he writes an app that has a navigation bar with a camera icon, photos, title, and a message icon, a feed of photos with each photo having a user icon, a photo, a heart icon, and a chat bubble icon. Okay, he presses design, and voila, it generates an app design with icons, with a title, with all the for each picture. Now this is a preview of what it is as an app. I mean, this is incredible, right? So this is really, really incredible, and he explains how he did this too. So he was he has to combine a few different things, right? So he has to use he needs to figure out what the text means, then how to put it into the code that Figma understands. So this is or first to represent it visually, and then to work back from there to make it into code that you can import directly into Figma. So this is really incredible. So just to make this clearer as well. So the thing about this is he's not just, it's like the AI doesn't have direct access to, it can't just draw in here. He has to convert what the AI says it should look like into the plugin code that tells Figma to design something. And so this is a multi-step process that this AI can do. So this is incredible. I think I should. This is something. This is similar to what I showed you before, but even more. This is now somebody's already made a website using this. Okay, an input says enter a to-do, a button that says save to-do, then show me all my to-dos. You just describe the app, and it generates this app, and then it lists all the to-do. I mean, it's really incredible how quickly this is figuring out what to do. It worked. What the fuck? So I mean, it's incredible, right? Like he wrote 3 lines describing an app that he wanted, and the AI just generates this app. So this is why people are getting excited about this. This is why. This is, it's really, really incredible. Okay, so now here is a Twitter user. He's talking to famous people on GPT-3. Here's what they're saying, a short thread. Okay. I asked Richard Dawkins on GPT-3 to explain the central idea of his book, The Selfish Gene. Here's what it said. Oh, okay. So he's not talking to famous people. He's talking to GPT-3. He's asking GPT-3 to pretend to be those famous people and tell him some answer. So, dear Richard Dawkins, can you tell me in short what the central idea of your book, The Selfish Gene, what is it? What was the central idea? Warmly, Paras. Dear Paras, this is quite hard to answer briefly, but the central idea is that living organisms are a kind of machine, a vehicle for replicating molecules, the genes. The organism is like a truck whose job it is to transport the genes around in order to survive and then reproduce them in new trucks, that is, in offspring. This is done by the genes making the truck organism behave in such a way as to protect the genes, to allow them to survive and reproduce. The genes want to live forever if they can. This is their single aim in life, and they are utterly ruthless in achieving it. But the point is that they themselves are not alive. The truck, the organism, is alive, but the driver, the genes, is not. You see what I mean? I hope that is clear. Best wishes, Richard. So, I very much doubt that Richard Dawkins would write it like this. But it certainly has something to his style to it. If you've ever seen videos of him or read some of his books, I don't know how he writes. Actually, I haven't read his books, but certainly the way he speaks, this is sort of reminiscent of that. I don't know if you used this exact metaphor before. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. As we saw before, GPT-3 will reuse things if they fit. So that may be what's going on here. I think it's it would be dangerous to over interpret this and believe that GPT-3 is like just completely making this up. This is, yeah, that would be a bit too much. But this is still interesting. So he asked different people about things. This is too long. I'm not going to look at that. Okay, so yeah. If you want me to talk to someone else and what I should ask them, I asked GPT-3 the meaning of life according to famous personalities and philosophers. I like what it thinks I would say the meaning of life is. It's 100%. The meaning of life is to be happy. Okay. The following is a list of companies and categories they fall into: Facebook, social media technology; LinkedIn, social media technology, enterprise careers. Asked it to classify Wingify, Swiggy, Reliance,